The thing that gives Excel most of its power is that every cell has a name. So this is column A. You can see it's got a name there. And these are rows. So columns are letters, numbers are rows. If I click in a cell, I can see the E is lit up, the 6 is, this is cell E6, and here's the name box, and you can see the name in it. So that's what we need to know most of the time, no matter what we're doing. If we're doing math of any sort, which is of course why we would use Excel, it's going to use not the actual numbers we're working with, but the cells. So I can say that C4, which is where I am right now, equals A4 plus B4. It doesn't matter that there's no numbers there. If I put a number there, it will tell me what the answer is, right? So it only cares really about the cells' names. The intersection between columns and rows is where the name is. Unless we name it, but we'll get to that in a bit. Oh, come on. I love when it spins when I'm trying to record. Smarten up. So, no matter what I put in here, the answer in that cell is always going to be right. So, A4 plus B4 is here. Most math is fairly straightforward. We use plus minus, so minus is an asterisk. Let's see, we've got plus, minus, asterisk or star, whatever you want to call it, and the divide is a slash. We've got brackets, and that's really most of the things that we're using. You can get into things like little, what's it called, a caret. Let's see, that guy. This is a tilde, but it's not used in math. It's just cute because I like it. Anyway, we're going to use our symbols and our names in our formulas. So Excel can do a whole bunch of math for us. The main thing is that no matter what number is in here, this has to be right. One of the biggest problems I ever have with students who are supposed to be learning Excel is they don't get that and they want to make it, they just want to add the numbers there. So they want to type 2, 2, 4. Obviously that is no good because when I change this to 22, this is not the total of those two cells. The other important thing to remember when you're working with Excel is BEDMAS, which is brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. You know, if I had remembered that before I did my test to go to college, I could have skipped an entire class in algebra. Anyway, I didn't, so sucks to be me. So this plus this is supposed to equals this. So this, let's go back to equals this plus this. Very straightforward, nothing exciting. Where it becomes useful is if we have numbers down the whole column, we don't have to sit here and go A5 plus B5, A6 plus B6, and so on and so forth, all the way down to the very bottom, which I'm getting to with control and the arrows. So if there's any text there, it will stop when the situation changes from text to empty or empty to text. That's where it will stop. Ours doesn't have any, so it goes right to the bottom. Okay, so when we want to do math, we only have to get it right once, and once you have it right once, you can put it down as far as you want to go. So now it's going to add up anything I put in any of those cells. Doesn't matter what number I put in them, these are all going to be correct. Now, I don't happen to like looking at zeros. I prefer looking at little dashes, so that's my format. And these are all the formats that we have available to us. And if you don't like them, you go to custom and you change them. But you don't need to worry about that most of the time. And honestly, the times where you do is because somebody wrote a textbook and really didn't think very hard about what actually matters in the real world. So I'm going to put some random numbers in here, and I really mean random numbers. Let's go rand between, open a bracket, and I'm bringing up my function palette. Don't worry about this right now, but it won't kill you to see it. Bottom number is going to be 0, and the top is going to be 500. So I'm going to end up with numbers between 0 and 500. Okay. And I'm going to autofill that once here, and I just double click to make it go down to the very bottom. Don't need decimal places here, I don't want them, so I'm going to decrease my decimal. And now what's fun about this is when you hit F9 on your keyboard, or when you do other things, the numbers will change. It's nice to be able to see what's changing or to see what's in a specific category or whatever, and the main way that we do those things is conditional formatting. So I can say if the number is in, let's go, if it's greater than, what did we make it? Up to 1,000? No, because, yeah, up to 1,000 basically. So if it's greater than 750, we're going to fill it with yellow. Hit OK, and now you can see whenever these change, because I'm hitting F9, the colors jump around. If I want to do the product, that's a lovely name for multiplication. So equals this times this. Enter, and I can do that all the way down. Okay, so this time I'm going to use conditional formatting, the easy ones. So I'm going to use a gradient fill, and let's go with pink. Now as the numbers change, everything changes. It doesn't matter if the cell that you're on meets a criteria, or even if it has anything in it at all. So if I go down to the bottom here, that's taking too long, go down to the bottom of that, go to the next, and if I fill that down, however far it goes, oh come on, you should know to stay with the format. Okay, and let's put this one down. There, that's why I didn't, okay. And we can just go with more random numbers. The format will change. These hashtags or number signs, whatever the heck you want to call them, that just means the cell isn't big enough, or you've made a programming mistake, but since you don't need to get into programming because you're not a programmer, you don't need to worry about that. So let's call this column A, what an imaginative name, and that's column B. And this doesn't need to have that format on it, so I'm going to clear the format. And that's one of the things that confuses people about Excel sometimes, but is really straightforward, is that the format and the content are two separate things. So if I, for example, put a date in here, and I'm just doing Control semicolon, because I want to make it quick, easy, and not bore you. There's the date. Now if I go take the date out and I want to put my, let's go with my phone number, 705-527-2567. And first of all, it's not wide enough. Double click to make it wider. Ooh, it doesn't like that. It doesn't like my big long number. That's a programming error. It doesn't know what to do with that because the number is too big to be a date. If, on the other hand, I make it just 4, now it's going to have 4 numbers. you can see that it's taken my 2567 and formatted it as a date because it's trying to be helpful. Not helpful, we can clear the format and it'll go back to 2567. Okay, so sometimes you get the answer correct, or your formula is correct, but the answer you get is going to be wrong, and that is almost invariably because of the wrong format, and you can almost always fix it by doing clear formats. If you're having trouble with something that is not behaving appropriately, clear format. It will make it smarten up. Okay, so it tries to predict what you want. If you put in a format, it will it'll go with that, and then it'll apply to everything else. So if you want something to be a percentage, you put in a percentage sign. It'll say, okay, I know this is a percentage, and the next thing in this column is also going to be, and it will go with it. The biggest problem where it makes mistakes is where it's working with dates, because maybe you want to know how many days are left till Christmas, and it will return a date because you're taking one date away from another date. So it thinks you want another date, so then you have to format it. All of your formats are in here. Depending on what you want, they're all there. But we don't need to get into them because as long as you know where they are, if you're asked to format something, this is going to be where you need to go. Okay, so when we did these, back to the difference between absolute and relative, when I click on total, this one is A4 plus B4. This one is going to be A4 times B4. We could also do difference, which will be equals A4 minus B4, and it doesn't matter because it's random. Whichever one is bigger is the one that will be. It may not be negative, it might be positive, it doesn't matter. We're not going to worry about it, but you can see that we have a format. If we want a different format for our negative numbers, we would go in here to number and say, oh, I would like it to be red, or I would like it to do something else. But there you go. And again, F9, F9, and everything changes. The reason I use the random function when I'm teaching is because students sometimes like to sit there and do one thing one at a time, and it will take 6 years. That's not a good solution. And if you're doing all the relative values by hand, one at a time, you will never learn the difference between absolute and relative, and that's the next big thing that you have to know. So, before we go on, moving around in Excel is really easy. Everything has a name. For now, everything's name is based on the column and row. The formatting is a piece of cake. You know how to make things bold, underlined, all that fun stuff. Your borders are in here. Across the ribbon, everything has the main ones that you most likely use. Some of these will have choices. You can tell because they have drop-down boxes. And most of these have at the end, you can get to a bigger menu for that thing. If you can't see something that you think should be there, you click out the pop-out at the bottom, and you will go to the main menu and have whatever it is that's available. So everything is there, nothing is complicated. It's all very straightforward. And the only reason anybody has help up to this point is because they don't believe that they can do it, and they don't keep trying. So you're not going to do that because you are going to believe. So since you've already started your course and had some fun playing with it, I'm going to leave this one here, and we're going to move on. Oh, just one sec. One more thing that I want to show you is that number one, anything you want to change, you can right-click and go to Format, and it will let you change it. If you want to format a tab, you can do that. And if you want to select a certain range, you can do that. And what was the other thing? There's one other thing I was going, point out. And that is that all of these things you can click, drag, make bigger, smaller. And here as well, you can make them bigger or smaller as you wish. If you want to make it a particular size, you can go to column width and make it a particular size. When you're working in my lab will tell you, make it this big and that big and whatever. Nobody ever will tell you that once you get out of school. They're going to say, can you make that a bit bigger? Or they're not going to care at all. So don't worry about that stuff. I am just going to make all of these just a little bit bigger so my columns are bigger. And there was something else I'm still trying to remember. I'll think of it.